We're seated here today in a 19th century classroom. I'm going to talk about how we can leave the 19th century classroom behind by giving mastery to all students through personalized learning. But first, I want to talk about a very tragic story. Ignaz Semmelweis was a medical doctor in 1844 in a maternity hospital in Vienna, Austria. 1/3 of the women who gave birth there died from infection following childbirth. This was before germ theory, but Ignaz Semmelweis had a theory that the doctors may have been infecting their own patients. So he required them all to wash their hands in a mild solution of chlorine bleach. And at that time, the mortality rate dropped to less than 2%, until his supervisor ended the practice of hand washing, saying it's a silly ritual. Semmelweis spent the next 20 years of his life hopelessly trying to convince the medical community of the importance of sanitation and hand washing in medication. The Civil War happened after that, and in the Civil War, many people died unnecessarily because they were not following Semmelweis's practice of sanitation and hand washing. In fact, the numbers show that there were more people in the Civil War who died of infection than died in battle, and it was not necessary. A similar indifference has been shown in our day to those who have been advocating for a proven antidote to ineffective education outcomes. And when I talk about ineffective, 20% of America's high school students do not graduate high school. And of those who do graduate, 2/3 do not achieve proficiency in basic language arts and math. "80 years ago, the pioneer of educational psychology, Jean Piaget, said that all students can achieve mastery if they get immediate interactive feedback through personalized education. In his day, that could only be provided by a private tutor. 20 years ago, another pioneer of educational psychology said, and proved through empirical evidence, Benjamin Bloom showed that the students who received personalized learning through immediate feedback gained at double the rate of students who did not. Their advocacy has been largely ignored, and it is even not taught by those in our education colleges. They are celebrated by educators across the world for their other contributions, but on personalized learning, they have been largely ignored. Until now, in Utah, they are being followed, and I'm sure they're looking down from heaven celebrating what we're doing, and I want to tell you more about it. But what I want to tell you first is what it's not. I'm not talking about online education. I'm not talking about educational YouTube videos. I'm not talking about one-to-one devices. What I am talking about is computer-assisted instructional software, which delivers to each student personalized feedback with every response they give. Let me illustrate this for you. Every student gets what they need because of their learning style and their learning pace. I'd like you to come with me to a Utah classroom, a junior high computer lab crowded with 75 computers and 75 junior high students. This school was part of the STEM Action Center Math Pilot Program. I didn't think it would be optimal to have 75 junior high kids in one classroom. But I was surprised when I entered that classroom 10 minutes after it had started, and I found that it was deafeningly silent. Each student was completely engaged in his or her work, working on computer math-assisted software. At their pace, every student was on a different page at a different time, depending on what they needed in that moment. And in fact, that school had decided to use 3 different math software programs because they wanted to customize it to each student's needs. So the principal interrupted and introduced me and invited me to speak. So I asked these 75 students, how many of you feel you are getting math better than you have at any time in your life? Every single hand came up. I said, how many of you used to feel that you would never be good at math? 2/3 of the hands went up. And I said, keep your hands up if you still feel that way. Every hand came down. And then they started to volunteer their feelings about math. Every student in that 75 computer lab was excited about math because they were getting precisely what they needed. They were getting the immediate feedback with every single response they gave. Rather than kids going home to cry over their algebra homework with parents who are unable to help them, each of these students was getting feedback with every single response they gave. The question that these students asked of me was, are we going to be able to take this math software home with us during summer vacation? There's one word reason why they asked that question. The brain researchers have shown why students are interested in having this kind of immediate feedback. The word is dopamine. It's what gives joy to students in learning with that immediate feedback. And the brain researchers have proven that that is what makes computer-assisted instructional software so fun for kids. And it's also what makes computer games addictive for kids. We sometimes say that we have man's search for happiness. But in reality, when we're talking about joy in learning, it's something else. It's man's search for dopamine. And it's my goal to teach every Utah student how to make organic dopamine in their own heads, because I think that by doing that, we are going to end the war on drugs much quicker than all of the drug enforcement agents combined, because nothing succeeds like success. And those 75 kids were succeeding, and they feel differently about math than they ever have in their life. The third-party evaluations that have been associated with our math and reading and other software have shown amazing results. Whether the third-party evaluators show effect sizes, which are through the roof, or whether they show other data comparing with the control group, these students are outscoring their peers who are not on this software 2, 3, and 4 times the growth rate. And therefore, we need to replicate it. Utah now has 350,000 students receiving daily personalized learning through computer-assisted instructional software in pre-K, in early intervention reading, ELL, English language acquisition, elementary math software, and secondary math software. So the question we ask is, how did Utah schools scale personalized learning so quickly? It basically boils down to the professionalism of our educators. The legislature played a part in offering measures that would give the schools the opportunity to accept an opportunity to bid on licenses for their schools. But there were no mandates and there were no entitlements. Instead, they used what I call the scarcity model. The legislature provided enough software to provide a third of all classrooms to receive math software, for example, or early reading software, or ELL software, which now has been extended to all ELL students in the state. And by the way, we used to have about 45,000 ELL students. Now the numbers are in the 25,000s because they move so quickly out of that category, because every kid gets 45 minutes a day on the computer with personalized learning in English language acquisition. So the scarcity model basically says we have enough licenses for a third of the schools. Who wants them? What we have learned is that professional educators will move heaven and earth to distinguish their school, their faculty, their students. And so they scrambled to get together to plan for how to apply for these software packages. And because they had to apply for them and they owned that decision, they implemented it with fidelity. The software manufacturers are saying, we've never seen a state where people implement this software with such fidelity. And that's why we're getting the amazing results we are. Bloom has been known for Bloom's taxonomy, which all you educators know. You notice on the very bottom that is knowledge. This is the basics of the things that are required to move up the ladder on higher level thinking. Skills and knowledge are best delivered through personalized education, which can be delivered through computer-assisted instructional software. And that frees the teachers to engage the students in higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy, such as synthesis, evaluation, creativity, collaboration. Those are the kinds of activities that teachers receive more joy out of than one more year giving that sage on the stage lecture about fractions to this bell-shaped curve of students, which is 5 years between the top and the bottom with the distribution in the middle. The teacher tries to teach in the middle because that's where most of the students are. The students on the right are bored. The students on the left are lost. But by personalizing that skill building and content knowledge, we now free the teachers to engage students in higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy. The critical thing we're facing now today in Utah is shortage of computers. We have outstripped our computer capacity in our schools. This chart shows in the red the amount of local property taxes per student by district. I thought there would be a correlation between the amount of local property taxes available and the number of computers per student. But as you can see, the blue line shows the number of computers per student, and there's no correlation whatsoever. It's about commitment. It's about leadership in those districts. And the legislature has prepared this next session to assist the districts and the charter schools in ensuring that there are sufficient numbers of computers to deliver daily doses of personalized instruction for every student. Today's students are truly digital natives. They should not be required to power down to come to school. They deserve Bloom and Piaget's vision of personalized learning for every student. I invite you to join in this effort of restoring students as autonomous, self-directed learners. It's time we set the captive students free from the straitjacket of the 19th century classroom. I invite you to join us in moving Utah forward so that every student receives personalized learning in those basic skills. Thank you very much.